Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 2. In this video, I just wanted to try to explain why I believe there's a direct connection between the prophecy that's recorded in the book of Haggai and the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem that's recorded in the book of Daniel. And I actually discovered this by accident. What I wanted to try to do is show you how it took all 3 decrees to accomplish the building of the temple. As you can see from this verse here in Ezra 6:14, where it says, "And the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddu, and they builded and finished it according to the commandment of the God of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes." So I just wanted to show you how it took all 3 decrees to accomplish the building of the temple, and the 3 decrees culminated in the decree by Artaxerxes. So of course the command had to begin, the counting had to begin with the final decree that was made by Artaxerxes, because it wouldn't make sense if all 3 decrees were necessary to go back to one of the previous decrees. So you would have to go to the final decree, which was the decree by Artaxerxes, and I don't believe that it was by accident that it was in the 7th year of Artaxerxes. And like I've said before, I don't believe it was by accident that it was in a year that ended with the year 7. And I don't believe it was an accident that this was recorded in Ezra 7, because the prophecy in the book of Daniel is all about Shavuos. It's all about the number 7. And we just so happen to be in the Hebrew year that's the Hebrew year 5777. So I don't believe that's by accident either. And so that's what I wanted to point out, but in the process I noticed that this is all based on the prophecy that's recorded in the book of Haggai, and also the prophecy that's recorded in the book of Zechariah. And it's in the book of Haggai where it talks about the 9th month and the 24th day of the month. And I want to read that prophecy in just a minute, but before I do that, I just want to show you this video over here by Renee Moses. I was just watching this yesterday, and I just happened to notice this verse right here that's recorded in Haggai 2:7. So again, you have the number 27 here, and again, this has to do with the coming of the Lord. It says over here, "I will shake all nations, and the desired of all nations will come," that would be Jesus, "and I will fill this house with glory, says the Lord Almighty." So again, you have the coming of the Lord associated with the number 27. So I just wanted to point that out. But further down in the video, it was actually further ahead in the video, you have the scripture here in Haggai 2:18, where it says, "From this day on, from this 24th day of the 9th month, give careful thought to the day when the foundation of the Lord's temple was laid. Give careful thought, is there yet any seed left in the barn? Until now the vine and the fig and the pomegranate and the olive tree have not borne fruit. From this day on I will bless you." So as you can see, this is all about the building of the temple. In fact, I had pulled up a summary of the book of Haggai just to see what the book of Haggai is all about. And of course, as it states here, the purpose of this book was that Haggai was called by God to encourage the people to finish the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. The construction had ceased because of opposition and because of neighboring countries, and the Jews were frightened. So this is basically the summary of the entire book of Haggai. It's all about the building of the temple. And then over here it says the book ends with the prediction of the downfall of kingdoms with one Zerubbabel, governor of Judah, as the Lord's chosen leader. And Zerubbabel is a type of Christ, and that's what's talked about in the book of Zechariah, which is the other prophecy that the building of the temple was based on. And so I'll show you that prophecy in just a second. But before I do that, I just want to explain that in the meantime, I was trying to figure out the part in the prophecy in the book of Daniel that has to do with the building of the wall that's talked about in the book of Nehemiah, and why it was coming up to year 0 or year 1, which would be the birth of Christ. And I wanted to see how long it actually took to build the wall. And I came up with this verse right here in Nehemiah 6:15. And in here it states that it only took 52 days to build the wall. And then I noticed that it was on the 25th day of Elul. So that just got my attention when I saw the 52 and the 25, which is 52 backwards. It was like a mirror reflection of the number 25. And then I noticed that it just so happens to be in verse 25 in the book of Daniel that it talks about the building of the wall. And then I realized that this was coming up in chapter 9. And in the book of Haggai, it talks about the 9th month and the 24th day of the month, as I read from here earlier. And then the prophecy in the book of Daniel comes up in Daniel 9, verses 24 through 27. And the verse in particular that talks about the building of the wall, and which also gives the time frame for the decree and the prophecy that it's based on, with the 62 weeks and the 7 weeks, that it's actually coming up in verse 25. So I just made the connection of the 9/24 and 9/25, the 9th month, and the 25th day of the month, which would be the first day of Hanukkah, and which also corresponds with Christmas this year. And so once I noticed that, I thought, well, let me look at the book of Zechariah, since that's the other part of the prophecy that the prophecy is based on, and see if there's any hints about Christmas there. And then immediately when I pulled up the chapter that talks about the building of the temple, which would be chapter 4, I was immediately reminded of the imagery that's presented with the candlesticks, and I'll just show you an image of what that looks like right here. And as you can see, this looks very similar to a Hanukkah menorah, and I'll just show you another image here. Usually these two candlesticks are attached, but sometimes they're separated like they are in this image right here. And I just picked this image on purpose because this seems to match the imagery that you have in the book of Zechariah, with the 7 candlesticks and then the 2 olive trees / candlesticks on either side of the 7 candlesticks. And it's actually because of this imagery that I've believed for a long time that one of the most likely feasts for the return of the Lord would be either Hanukkah or Pentecost. And I even mentioned that here in this video, which I have as my featured video. I explain here how I believe that these two feasts, the Feast of Hanukkah and the Feast of Pentecost, how they parallel each other, and how I believe that these are the two most likely feasts for the return of the Lord. And one of the reasons that I believe that is because I believe that this is a picture of the restored temple with the Jews and the Gentiles coming together to become one. And also explain, I'm not sure if I explained it in that video, but this is where Todd from The Hidden Bride comes to mind, because I explain it in another video, which would be this video right here. It's called Shiloh Prophecy Reassessment Part 3. That's where I talk about how I believe that the Hanukkah menorah represents the restoration of the DNA, and I explained that in this video. And this was based on the prophecy in Genesis 49:10 that talks about Shiloh, where it says, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be." And I had gone on to translate verse 11 from the Greek in the Septuagint, and what I realized was that this was all about the restoration of the DNA, and I explained that in that video. But as you can see, it says here, "Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine," that would be Jesus, where he says, "I am the vine and you are the branches. He washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes." And so I was trying to find an image that represents the two vines coming together, and I remembered that I had seen the video by Todd, The Hidden Bride channel, which it looks like he's changed the name to It Is Finished. The name of his channel is now called It Is Finished. But in this video, he talks about how he saw this vine when he went to a vineyard in California, and how he heard in his spirit that this was a menorah. And I talk about that in the video, and that's what reminded me this image, and that's why I went back to his channel to take a look at it, because I hadn't been to his channel in a while. And then that's when I saw his most recent video, which at the time was this one right here, but it looks like he's made another video since then. But it was this video over here that I found really interesting. And the whole video was extremely interesting, but I thought this was interesting right here, where it says in Zechariah 2:6, he's talking about this person right here that he's featuring in his video is saying that Satan would announce himself as coming by saying, "Ho, ho, ho." So I went to take a look at this in the book of Zechariah, chapter 2. And you can see that right here. It's saying, "Ho, ho, come forth, flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord, for I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith the Lord. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon." And again, I kind of saw the number 27 in there being associated with the coming of Christ and our deliverance. And I thought the parallel with Santa Claus was really interesting, but then I went on to read some more, and this got my attention over here in verse 11. And again, I don't believe it's any accident that this is coming up in verse 11 in chapter 2, because as I've explained before, I believe the number 11 represents the two becoming one, the restoration of our DNA. And over here it's saying, "And many nations shall be joined to the Lord in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of thee," in the midst of the seven candlesticks, "and thou shalt know that the Lord of hosts has sent me unto thee." And when you look at this word joined in the Hebrew, you see that it means twined, joined together or twined. And then the next part of his video, which I thought was really amazing, was at the end, he put in this song by U2, which I have the lyrics for it right here. but I don't have time to read it or get into it, so I'm going to have to finish up in the next video. Thank you.